allegiance, followed by invocation by Commissioner Greaves.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, as we gather together as the Finney County Commission, we ask your guidance to be with us today in the decisions we make for our citizens. We also ask for rain and for moisture, Lord. The country's pretty dry, pretty dusty. And lastly, Father, be with all of us in this room. Grant us health, happiness, keep us safe from harm. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I stirred up my share.
Welcome, everyone. Guess I can get my mic to work today. It's nice to see a lot of folks here from the community. And I don't have any other remarks from the chair, and we'll proceed to the consent agenda.
Vote. Vote.
Commissioner Jones wants to remind all of you to get out and vote. If you haven't done so, tomorrow's election day. Now we will go to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the items on the consent agenda.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Moved and seconded to approve the items on the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll open up today for public comment, and first we'll hear from the Extension Office. Please introduce yourselves.
Good morning. My name is Caroline Crouch. I'm the district director here at the West Plains Extension District, which comprises of Finney and Scott County. I'm here for a couple reasons this morning. The first, I would like to introduce our newest agent, Victoria Tori Mock. She's our new 4-H agent. We'll be working with Janet Harkness, which you guys know, with the 4-H program. And so we're really excited. Our 4-H program in our district, Finney and Scott County together, has grown tremendously. We're way over 300 youth participants, and that's a lot of youth to be busy with. So we've added an agent here that will help her. And with the loss of Anthony Reardon, our Hort agent, our ag agent's going to take those duties over with hers and give up her 4-H duties. So that way we've got a little bit more 4-H activity going on. So the second reason I am here is I wanted to make the county commissioners aware of a program that I'm bringing at the end of January through the Community Vitality Program with K-State. It's a grant writing workshop. I've given you guys a little bit of information, the flyer, but then some comments from some folks that were just at one last week. This grant writing workshop is going to be mainly for municipalities and communities, cities. It's going to be geared toward infrastructure, road, sewer, that kind of thing, housing. Folks from Topeka that are in charge of these grants are actually going to come out and join us. So my goal is to invite all the county municipalities, all the city folks, anybody that's interested in those kinds of grant opportunities. We will have professionals here to help them write those grants. I was told that there's like $62 million in housing. They want to send a lot of it to Southwest Kansas, but our grant writing isn't just where they think it needs to be in order to get those funds. So we're bringing this program out here to see if we can't cabbage onto some of that monies for our community. That program will be held here at the Southwest Area Office on Mary Street. January 31st, and like I said, it's only going to be for municipalities and those kinds of folks. Next August, we will have another grant writing opportunity, but it'll be for more like nonprofits. So this is going to be the bigger picture, and I've shared some of those. There is some folks that I know for sure that's already on board that's coming. The Kansas Hub, the Federal Infrastructure BIL funding, and Kansas Building Match Funds for BIL funding. Matt Hansen does that. He is already on board to come. Sarah Blooms with Kansas Commerce. Some of you might know her. She's on board. She'll be here. Jason Fizel, Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. He's already committed to be here. And I think I've given that information to you, possibly. If not, I can get that. But you could see some of the comments. I printed off some of the comments from the last program that they had done to see, what they thought of this program. And we're real excited. We're hoping to bring some of these bigger programs through K-State. Many of you might have heard about the K-State 105 initiative. Have you guys heard of that yet? It's an initiative through K-State. Folks are realizing that with K-State, we have 105 offices in 105 counties in the state of Kansas, that we are a one-stop spot, and they're trying to, we are going to be part of the bigger picture. We are going to be able to bring information from KU down, not just K-State anymore. They are tapping into us as a resource for disseminating information to our communities. So we're really excited about some of the changes that are moving forward there. And I'd be happy to share some of that with you guys, or I can share a link. I think I might have shared that link with you, Lon. I could send it to the rest of the county commissioners if they'd like. We're really excited about this new initiative. It's a work in progress, as it always is, but we're extremely excited. So unless there are any questions for me.
I'll ask.
Okay.
Commissioner, any questions?
You're a new hire here. Where did you come from?
Tori, I'll let you want to introduce yourself?
I was born and raised in Pratt County. I've been in the Scott County area for the last year and a half. I was working as a temp at the FSA office, but jumped on the opportunity to be a 4-H extension agent when that arose. 4-H was a large part of growing up for me, and I'm really excited to be able to contribute as an extension agent.
We welcome you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
No question, Mr. Chairman, just a comment. First of all, I appreciate what the Extension District does, and being liaison, I'm able to go to most of their monthly meetings and so forth. And just very specific to that comment, they are really conscious about their financial financial stewardship, and I appreciated how they handled their budgeting and the R&R process this year. But then lastly, I would encourage you to send that information to all the commissioners rather than just through me or what I gain from it. So, thank you. Appreciate it. And welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome, Tori. I listened to you on the radio this morning.
Oh, thank you.
And I might say welcome too, but we miss you up at the FSA office though as well, so.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
very
so much.
Next up on our agenda is we're going to remain in public comment, and we're going to hear from Jim Randall. Good morning. Please introduce yourself for the viewing public.
Good morning. I'm Jim Randall, Randall Estates LLC, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to give you guys a little feedback of what I've been experiencing over the last couple of years with the development that I'm trying to do in the county. And I appreciate your guys' time, and I hope I don't blacklist myself by coming up here, because I'm still at your mercy to finish this development that I'm just now getting started to. I've been working on this. I realize that I believe I'm correct. In March, it'll be 2 years to date, and that's not something I was hoping to have to discuss, because I've spent a lot of time in regulation, I guess you'd say, red tape that's been pretty onerous. And I understand why there's regulation and why there's policies and procedures. I just feel that maybe the county should maybe look at being more of a partner with developers and or projects, as opposed to being hurdles and regulatory burden. What I feel like in my business, when it comes to regulatory items, I try to keep it from the customer. I work in a business that is full of regulation, and I try to keep it on our side of the desk. I try not to pass it on to the customer. That, of course, as you guys know, in all types of business, you can't control everything. But we try really hard not to put the burdensome on the customer. I feel like the people I've worked with in the county have been great. This is not personal. I'm not trying to, McKinsey has been awesome to work with. I think this is bigger picture than that. I think we need to look, or I would like the county to look into some other ways of making these developments a little more streamlined, or a little bit more, like I said, a partnership. Probably about 6 to 9 months into the project, I was ready to quit. Every time I would accomplish one item, whatever that item is, and I realize I'm not a professional developer, and it's not my forte, but I didn't think 16 lots in rural residential Finney County would be that complicated. And fortunately, I had Lana Duvall and Steve Cottrell kind of pushing me and saying, don't give up, we just got to do this, we got to do this. But it seemed like every time an email would go around, I don't know how much correspondence there is in these agencies within the county, but there's a lot of people involved. And it just seemed like, and some of it's my fault, it could be not being a professional developer, I've delayed a few things. I won't claim to be perfect, but it's pretty onerous to get through this process unless this is what you do for a living. And if you do it for a living, I would be pretty challenged to want to come into this county, at least for what I've experienced. If I was from, now maybe that's what the county wants. Maybe the county wants to control growth and development. I realize when a bad apple falls off a tree, all the good apples pay. I understand how regulation gets wrote, how rules and policies and procedures get done, but I would like to see the county explore some methods to make this a little more of a process where we could get developments and housing a little more user-friendly. And while I'm not a professional developer, I feel like I'm pretty savvy in business. And if it wasn't for, friends and business partners and other people have helped me along the way, again, I would have been like, I'll just stick to banking, I'll just stick to ranching. Those are two things I'm fairly good at, I think. This development process is for the birds. A couple things I guess I'd like to bring up to consider. We've been working with other counties. In my job in the bank, we work with other counties. There's an irrevocable letter of credit the Finney County requires. And I understand why irrevocable letter credits are out there, but I don't know if everybody understands how difficult an irrevocable letter of credit is to get in this day and age. I've been approved for a line of credit to cover the development, and so I have a line of credit with the bank that's willing to work with me on this project, but then I'm told I need an irrevocable letter of credit for the same amount. Well, you don't get an irrevocable letter of credits without collateral. Well, maybe some people can, but I don't qualify for that. So you would have to have essentially 3 times the collateral to do this project, because a bank is not going to take that risk. Why would they assume all the risk of the development? And obviously the county's position is they want no risk, so put it on the developer. I think a line of credit is plenty sufficient to take care of the project, especially since I'm not putting water and sewer in. I imagine somebody could come up with an example of where a development needs to have intervention and somebody has to come in, but I'm working with Wheatland, Black Hills, Idea Tech, Waycamp Excavating. These are not unknown names in the county. They're all bonded and insured. So why do I need an irrevocable letter of credit? And if I even could get one, it's going to be very expensive. But that part I think is very onerous. Now, Mackenzie, to give her credit, she's working with me on hopefully some options that we might be able to do outside of the irrevocable letter of credit. But my guess is that there's policies and procedures in place no matter how the development gets pursued. I don't believe the flexibility of common sense is in there to say, you know what, this project probably doesn't need that. So somebody should be sitting down and saying, you know what, this development's not the same as 300 homes putting in water and sewer. Somebody ought to be able to say, you know what, we could probably not require that. Now, I was told I don't need the irrevocable letter of credit if I don't sell lots, but that's expensive to me because I have 5 or 6 people that want to buy lots, but I can't sell lots until I have an irrevocable letter of credit, or I'm going to have to wait until the project's done. But with these economies and everything, last meeting I came to, I listened to Mr. Hannigan talk about this, about delays and how expensive it is. And I was like, man, I hope that doesn't happen to me. Well, it did, and now here I am about a year later, I think. So I don't know, I guess I would just implore the county to look at some options that might be more partnership related with developments and projects as opposed to just providing hurdles. And if they get through these 27 hurdles, good for them, they can do their development. The other thing I would, the RHID and the irrevocable letter of credits, the reason I bring that up is I've been working with other counties as we're looking to put another bank in another county, and they don't require, well, I shouldn't say the county, I'm not positive, it could be the city, an irrevocable letter of credit for the project in a development. They pick it up. So somebody's done some research and figured out a way to be a little friendlier to development and growth within this area. They also have a different way of looking at RHID, of which I couldn't give you the exact details, but I believe they pay for the development up front so that the developer doesn't have the risk, and then they get the RHID back, at least a percentage of it. And I'm sure there's some procedures in there to make sure that happens in a timely manner, but they basically take the development and run with it on all of the developmental costs. And you can probably imagine which county I'm talking about without me mentioning it, so it's in the paper, but I really feel like we need to look at something to be more aggressive. One of the things I've been proud of in Garden City since I've lived here all my life, 3 years old, wasn't born here, but 71, is this community has just impressed me over and over on how aggressive we are and how much people talk good about Garden City. And I know Finney County is just a partner right with that. And I worry that we might be getting a little bit too caught up in regulation and policies and procedures. And I know we need housing, and we all know we need housing, but I would say this process, we need to look at something a little friendlier. So I guess in my summarization, I would say I think it would be a good idea to look at RHID options for the developers. I would look at not requiring the irrevocable letter credits in certain cases where they're not necessary, or having some flexibilities there. I would look at trying to find ways to partner with people more than necessarily being hurdles in the operation. And I've enjoyed working with the people I've worked with. I just have a feeling that they're maybe even burdened to some degree on what they can say yes to or not say yes to, or have some flexibility. I feel like there should be somebody that's out there at my development and saying, well, okay, I get it. I see where this is coming from. We should just be able to make some exceptions to the rule. And that process hasn't happened. It's been all red tape. But I want this to be objective. I'm not complaining. I'm hoping maybe going into the future, there could be something a little more friendlier so we can get some things going.
All right, we'll ask the county counselor to look into that. Jim, thank you for taking your time and those comments.
You're welcome.
Close public comment unless there's anyone else. Seeing none, we'll move into the business agenda. First, recognize Sandra Kendall, Field Appraiser 3, Operation Greenlight Resolution, and recognition of our county employees who have served or are serving in the armed services. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm here to bring attention to us being able to recognize and honor our veterans. I'm part of two groups. One, the William Wilson chapter for the Daughters of American Revolution. I have traced my family heritage back to a patriot in the Revolutionary War. I'm also a member of a Quilt of Valor Foundation, where we honor veterans with quilts. And I've got some of my ladies here, my quilters, and my Daughters of the American Revolution with me. My sisters and my siblings and I had a uncle that was a prisoner of war. He returned from the war. I had a brother that was in Vietnam War. Growing up, I didn't know anything about veterans or the war. so my brother came home from in the World War, or Vietnam in '69, and he got married. I was still at home, didn't know nothing about anything about the war or anything that he was involved in. He was a helicopter mechanic, and I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of my uncle for his service, although I didn't know that he served until later on. We got into making quilts for veterans. I gave a quilt to my brother, but not as a quilt of valor. And I wish he was here that we could, in order to honor him that way. There's 3 veterans on our list that you're gonna read that have been presented quilts. 2 of them I have personally made myself. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions for Sandra? We have, would like to introduce a resolution for consideration by the commission. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Resolution 28-23, this is proposed for the Board of County Commissioners of Finney County, Kansas. Residents of Finney County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the persons who've selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. The contributions and sacrifices of those who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. Finney County seeks to honor individuals who have made countless sacrifices for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. Veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, veterans of foreign wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year for our service members. Approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. An estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. Studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life. Active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service. The National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for Veterans. And Finney County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should now be granted. Now therefore it be resolved, with the designation as a green light for Veterans County, Finney County, Kansas hereby declares from November 6th through Veterans Day, November 11th, 2023, a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifices of our persons in uniform transitioning from active service. And be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Greenlight, Finney County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying green lights in a window of their place of business or residence from November 6th through November 12th, 2023. Adopted and approved by the Board of County Commissioners this 6th day of November, 2023. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Mr. Chairman, so move.
Second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 28, 2023 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. In further of this resolution, we would like to recognize the following employees who are veterans or serving in the military and employed by us. I'll wait till is the list there now? Very good. Carlos Morello at the JDC, William Jake Sanchez at JDC, Gracilia Ramos, JDC, Carlos Bluven, IT, Jacob Gayer, County Attorney, Isaac LeBlanc, County Attorney, Nicholas Varana, County Attorney, Amber Dunlap, Health Department, Hector Rivera, Health Department, Araceli Guerrera Chan, Health Department, Joseph William Bill Osborne, Public Works, Michael Warren, Sheriff's Office. Steve Martinez, Sheriff's Office. Jerry Hahn, Sheriff's Office. Clark Bates, Sheriff's Office. Alyssa Padilla, Sheriff's Office. Kevin Chalmers, Sheriff's Office. David Melcher, Sheriff's Office. Estella Mercuria, Sheriff's Office. Jeff Steele, Sheriff's Office. Colleen Baskew, Sheriff's Office. Eric Rojas, Sheriff's Office. And Addison Baker, Sheriff's Office. If we have missed any employees of Finney County who are past or present service members, please bring it to my attention for due recognition. And we'd like to take a moment and thank these people for their service. Absolutely. All right, we'll go this way and then come back for signature, please. Yes.
Chairman Schultz, I would like to invite anybody that would like to come. November 9th at the Senior Center at 1 o'clock, we will be presenting 11 veterans with quilts this week.
Would you repeat the date and time, please, again?
November 9th, 1 p.m. at the Finney County Senior Center.
Anything else?
Other than our Quilt of Valor group has presented around 400 quilts to veterans between Gray County, Scott County, or Finney County and Kearney County. So we're very pleased with being able to recognize our veterans. I don't know. Yes, we did present one to Dr. Clifford and his wife. I think I've asked a couple of the current commissioners if they are veterans, but
Well, Dr. Clifford's gonna have a little black bandage today. Air Force got beat 25-3 by Army, ending their 13-game winning streak. So if you see Dr. Clifford, make sure you remind him that they didn't fly quite so high.
but come and watch the presentation. It's quite moving to see Micah with the Chamber of Commerce received one earlier this year. We did a specific one for lady veterans, and some of the quilts are quite beautiful. Some are standard, but, I'm pleased with what we get done.
Question for you. How does someone in the general public get quilting fabric materials to you for your use in building these quilts?
They can donate money. They can bring it down to the senior center. We meet on the fourth, or the last Saturday of the month.
At what time?
Between 9 and 4, 9 and 3 on Saturday, the last Saturday of the month at the senior center. Yeah, enter through the alley. So,
Thank
but,
you very much.
but a lot of this is, a lot of our quilts have been, come strictly out of our own funds. A lot of the quilt stores do give us discounts on patriotic quilts. They give us discounts or, run specials, so, or we pay full price and enjoy the fabric. So, thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Keep up all the hard work and all the quilters here. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
On to the more fun, mundane things of our agenda today. Library sign repair. Pam Tuller from the library director and Commissioner Davy Jones. Good morning, ladies. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Pam Tuller. I'm the director at the Finney County Public Library.
Paula Kimbrell, board member.
She's also the chairperson over there. She's the boss.
She's, yeah.
What can we do for you today?
There was some damage to our big outdoor sign, and we got a quote to have that fixed. When they came out to review it, they found that the rest of the sign actually needs to be replaced, the light fixtures. So that is covered. All of the rest of them are covered by our warranty, but the $4,000 is our the damaged ones that aren't covered under the warranty. So we were wondering if the library is able to put up $1,500 towards the replacement of those 5, and the warranty covers the rest of them, if the county could assist us with the funds to finish the quote.
Thank you. Mr. Administrator, do we have sufficient funds in the general fund to do the 2633?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Questions?
Not a question, but a comment. For the public's consumption, that the library is funded by not to exceed 1.9 mill levy on your property taxes. That money is paid to LS&S, a company that the county library board hired some 11, 12, 13, whatever years ago it has, yeah, well, time gets away, but to manage. I point that out because LS&S manages everything in the library, personnel, buying books, all of that, but two things that the community sees that is not part of our LS&S agreement, and that's the Nature Explorer outdoor classroom and that sign. The sign was purchased some years ago with money that had been set in a fund to replace a boiler, and with the new HVAC system in the library, the boiler wasn't needed, but the sign was, and so we put it up, and it's about to expire from its warranty, but we get a lot of positive comments about the sign, so I would offer the motion, Mr. Chairman, to allow the county to reimburse the library fund $2,633 out of general fund.
I'll second. Quick question, though. How was the sign damaged?
We do not know.
Weather or?
They said it could have been vandalism. It could have been if a bird hit it hard enough that it loosened parts of the pieces that fell off. But we've watched our videos. We've tried to see from when it was whole. It's hard to see unless the screen is black. When it was fully used, and then when the pieces were missing. We cannot see anything on video. Of course, it's hard to see at night if anything did happen at night, but we are unable to figure out what damaged it.
That had a couple years back, had a ding that we think probably was a rock picked up by a lawnmower. I use rock as a kind of a generic, but something that a lawnmower slung at it and poked a hole in, and that was, I don't remember what that cost, but the pieces of that sign are a little pricey.
Other comments, commissioners? Okay,
Just one quick, any building insurance, did that cover outside facilities like a sign or anything like that?
We do have coverage on the sign itself, but because it's under warranty, that wasn't covered.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, been seconded, to approve 2633 to the library fund from the county general fund. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, next on our business agenda is the 25th Judicial District, Beth Beavers. Please introduce yourself for the viewing public, and what do you got for us today?
Beth Beavers with the Department of Corrections with Finney County. I'm here seeking approval today for purchase of a new vehicle for adult corrections. This was budgeted out of our FY24 carryover reimbursement funds. The last purchase we had was in 2012. So this vehicle travels to all of the counties in the 25th Judicial District every week, at least once a week. And we also use this for surveillance, so it puts significant miles on it every week.
That's not significant, Miles. Try to keep up with Larry and I, and that,
Well, that's true.
Those are hard miles, so.
They are highway miles at least.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
question. Is it not possible to find a local dealer to deal with rather than Dodge City? I realize there's an affiliation here, but
I did submit to 5 dealerships. 2 of them here were local. We only received 1 bid back, and that was out of Dodge City.
I wanted to hear that for the record because that's been my experience, so thanks.
Yes.
Right, the request is for $30,900 to buy the new vehicle. Mr. Administrator, this money's budgeted, both from 2023 carryover and 24.
correct. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the purchase of the 2023 Traverse for $30,900.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to allow the purchase of the 2023 Chevrolet Traverse from Lewis Motors of Dodge City for $30,900. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, the next item on our business agenda is a big one. Sheriff, and I believe you have a guest from HMN Architects. Please introduce your guest as well.
Sheriff Mike Warren, and introduce Sean Harding with HMN. I'll let him explain, because this is Greek to me. I'm a cop, so.
Good morning.
Welcome.
I was asked to have a report in your hands by the 2nd. We actually got it in a little bit early so you guys could go through the report and proof it and redact anything that could cause any problems with security. I think what we found in our report is that you've got a building that's outpacing the life of the systems in the building. I think the structure and the envelope itself is actually in fairly good condition. We've got a few minor things that the architectural and the structural side of things pointed out. But for the most part, the 2 things that come to mind that probably are the priorities that you should take from this report is you need a new roof on the entire building, and you need a new water system to improve the water quality in the building, because that's causing a lot of the problems with sprinkler systems, plumbing in general. The everyday things that we deal with is, there's some dated finishes and stuff like that in the building that don't really affect the function of the building. It's more of a work environment. We do have a few things that we sat down with the staff and looked at, from an operations standpoint. And there are some things that could be improved. I think when the building was designed in '82 and then the additions in 2000, the firm that did that, a recognized, noted firm in Kansas, they just don't have a lot of background in doing detention type projects. So there are a few things that functionally we looked at and Greg, Jeff, some of the folks in the booking area, we thought might improve the function inside the space. I think that's a little bit contingent, and Robert, you can correct me on that. There was a project, I think last year, that the police department was looking at doing some things and trading some space. And so some of the things that we looked at's contingent on some of that space being turned over to the sheriff's department. I don't know where we stand on that project, so I can tell you that I laid this out according to the idea that we were going to gain some square footage. But I don't know where that project with the police department stands at this point in time.
As far as I know, they put it on hold pending the results of the study.
Okay. And then Robert and I have had traded several emails back and forth. We are in the process of gathering pricing for a lot of these things. I think if you look, we gave you a list that prioritizes, or a list that we would like some help in getting prioritized, about 54, 55 items. I mentioned two that I think should be at the top of that list. But from that point forward, we've got a few things that we're actually gathering pricing on it right now, but we've got a few things that are identified in the mechanical that are low, medium, and high priority. From the structural standpoint, the roof was their big concern. Other than that, we've got some spalling of brick and we've got some cracking here in a few places, but not nearly as bad as what I typically see on a building of that age. So again, to a certain degree, you've got a building across the street that's, outpacing the life of the systems in the building. And the extent of some of the things that we found, I think when Adam and I came and spoke during the interview process, we talked about teaming with a construction management firm so that we could develop these prices, and we thought they'd be a little bit simpler than, or a little more simple than some of the things that we found. I don't think that we change out chillers and boilers very often. So that's something that we're gonna have to spend a little bit more time to get pricing put together on that. There's some electrical things that are gonna take a little bit more time for us to kind of do the forensics on it to come up with prices on how to replace some of those things. But we are in the process of gathering some of that information, and I've got phone calls into a couple locals around here that could possibly help us. Any questions?
Well, I do. It appears that on page 53 is a worksheet of low priority, medium priority, and high priority.
Yes, that's from the mechanical side of things.
Where do we go from here, in the administrator, in your eyes, on moving this project towards funding and so forth?
Well, that's what we're here today to try and figure out exactly what are our next steps with the researching on the costs and everything and so forth.
I think to some degree what we've done is we've created a priority list. We need to kind of put that in, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we need to get that somewhat organized into what is the higher priorities, what are the lower priorities. There's a few things that I've got in this report that don't affect anything other than management style. I don't know that those are as high a priority as making sure that our sprinkler system functions correctly, making sure that we have tile floors that aren't peeling up, that people can make something out of that benefits somebody that doesn't need that benefit. So we were working on pricing on a lot of things, but I don't really want to spend a lot of time pricing things that don't set at the top of that priority list. I mean, if there's some things that we're not even going to consider, I don't want to spend the time to put those numbers together. So if we could come up with a way of giving us a 1 through 54, 55 on this thing, we can then look at the pricing in a more relative way to what you guys are expecting from HMN.
Have any questions for our presenter? I have a couple of observations. Bottom line, what do you need from us?
I probably need to spend some time with Robert and the team across the street and get this identified as 1 through 54, 55, whatever that number is.
Is there a summary different than what's on page 53 and 54?
No, I've got the same summary in the architectural without a prioritization. The mechanical engineer was nice enough to say, these are the things I think are, from a mechanical, electrical, plumbing standpoint, that make the most sense to work on first, second, and last.
Both the methodology of how we're going to pay for it and so forth really is hard to do when we don't know exactly what the scope of the work is.
That's true,
And how do we get to the first step of this is what we're going to do, this is how much it's going to cost, and then cut the administrator loose on how we're going to fund it?
I think one of the things we need to do is go ahead and reconvene that work group that initially started gathering together the information and so forth. We had a lot of representatives from the sheriff's office and buildings and grounds. I'd like to have at least one commissioner involved in that discussion, if not two, to begin the process of prioritization. Then with your group, we can come up with some numbers, kind of the sequencing of events that need to happen. Obviously, we have to keep things in business.
Right, and that does affect pricing. I mentioned to Robert, we've got a lot of projects that we've done just recently. Not very many projects have an elevated jail with a basement underneath it or office space underneath it. I can get you demolition numbers all day long on slab on grade. I don't know that I can knock a hole in the side of the wall and drop a bobcat in on your building and jackhammer out things that don't need to be there. I can do that on a slab on grade. I'm not worried about something falling through or things falling off the wall or anything like that. So there are some differences that we have to look into. There's also the idea that you are a 24/7 building. I got to come up with pathways to get materials in and materials out that don't affect the day-to-day operations.
Well, we also have a pretty good tenant in that building with us that are partners in law enforcement that I would want their input into this also, and I'm confident the sheriff does. So that work group needs to include somebody with their voice being at the table.
Yeah, I think I mentioned something about there is yet another tenant in the building that we need to consider in this.
I think the city should have participation in setting the priorities. I know it's our building, but it's got to serve multiple purposes for multiple people. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think what you're looking for are steps 1, 2, and 3 following this preliminary step, and I think the next step in this process is as Robert said, convening this group and going through this, what'd you say, Sean, 54 items?
Yeah, I think it's 54, 55 items.
Prioritizing those and then getting Sean's feedback on some of these things that he's discussed. And yes, I agree, it needs to be all tenants in the building that need to have input on that.
And what's the time frame from your perspective or administration's perspective on getting this group convened? We can discuss which commissioners want to be a part of the work group. And at least then you'll know from this body who's going to be working with you and get you to get this thing rolling, because I would like to see it moving.
What other due-outs do you have for this document? Are you're still working on finalizing some stuff with this document? Is that correct?
Actually, I'm just gathering pricing now. So we're in that process. Again, I'm not identifying first priority to second priority. I've got some roofing pricing right now, but I'm going to check with locals because I'm getting prices for everything but the single ply layer that goes on top. And I know that can be kind of regional in its pricing.
Because it almost sounds like we're about ready to bring a construction manager on board at this point in time.
We had discussed that during the interview process, that in our mind, the earlier we can bring them on, the better we can get pricing solidified on this. So that would be what I would consider a good early step in this process.
Mr. Chairman. And that's approximately a 60-day process to bring them on?
I would think that you are gonna have to get out RFQs, go through an interview process, make a decision. Might not be quite 60 days, but it's gonna take a good portion of that.
Okay.
We'll go left to right, sir.
I have a couple of questions. That building presently is heated and cooled by water, is it not? Either a chiller or a boiler?
Yes, sir. And a boiler and a chiller system.
And my recollection from back when that first building was built, they drilled 2 water wells. They pumped water up and took heat out of it or cold out of it and put it back down the other well. That's still part of the system?
Yes, if you delve into the mechanical, electrical, plumbing portion of the report, I think what they're saying is the 2 pieces that heat the water and cool the water are a problem right now. I don't think the wells are a problem.
That's my question, where I'm coming to. What's the new technology that you as an architect would recommend to consider to replace chilled water and boiler water?
Well, both those systems have changed a lot just since I've started my career. The systems are more efficient than they used to be. I don't know. I've changed a couple out on hospitals, and that's where I'm trying to get a little bit of pricing right now and put together so I can understand gallons and from a hospital project to this jail project to see if I can get it. But the boiler systems, we used a boiler system in Ford County, and it's a redundant two boiler system. It's very different than the old boilers that you'd see in some of the older hospitals and stuff. I think they've gotten much more efficient with their systems. I don't think chillers are really all that different than what they were. I think the boiler side of things have made improvements.
Reason for asking is, as a participant on this Board of County Commissioners, we approved an HVAC overhaul of this building, the 5 buildings as I recall, including the library and so on, with state-of-the-art. We can do away with the boiler, do away with the chillers, do away with all of that, and we have this that we now are told is antiquated. It's so I guess there's new technology somewhere out there, and my question is, what is it? So that's we can answer that some other day. It doesn't have to be today, but
I think a lot of people switched over to rooftop units and stuff just because there's not that many Boilermakers out there anymore. We don't have as many people that can actually service and work on boilers as we used to. But I don't know that system's any more antiquated than it was 50 years ago when everyone was talking about rooftop units. We still put them in. We still have hospitals that use them every day. So.
And the floors on that building are poured on pans, so that it's going to be tough to work wherever you go. So that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Question, just glancing down through this thing, a project of this scale, do you work inside out or outside in? You fix the envelope first, or you work on the mechanical on the inside, or do them all at the same time?
Part of what I talked about in there, something I'd never seen, and I've been doing this since '95 on detention projects, pre-adjudicated detention projects. I've never seen an operable detention window in my life. Never saw anything that you could crank open and get fresh air into a cell. Maybe the scariest thing I've ever seen in a jail from a standpoint of security. So I think one of the things we would phase the work, obviously. The nice thing is you've got a day room over there that's not in use. Day room I is not, it's sitting there as a storage area for you. I mean, you've got a place that you can take people from a day room, move them into another location, secure them, do the work in that day room. So I think you would do it in phases around the envelope of the building, make repairs to windows, make repairs to any of the walls that had damage. There's not a ton of damage from the standpoint of brick and CMU. There are floors that need to have all the tile come out. We need to treat the floor, clean the floor, and then seal the floor. That in itself there's fumes, there's a lot of stuff that go along with that. So some of those windows are gonna have to come out just so we can pipe air out, keep the vapors from going throughout the building. So I would think that we're gonna kind of move through it in a manner, maybe, clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever that is, but I think we'd have to actually move through it. There's some of the stuff that we're talking about that is within the sheriff's department itself. That's just minor. I mean, I call it paint and patchwork. We're gonna move a department from one area of the building to another area of the building. We obviously have to make sure the electrical works for them. We gotta make sure that if there's any light metal stud and gypboard type partitions and stuff, ceilings and flooring probably will have to come out if we make any changes to walls. Then paint and patch and move investigations to the old road patrol area. Road patrol moves to the police squad room area. It's not a whole lot different than some of the hospitals. You vacate a space, you move the next group into that space, and it's like a slide puzzle. And that's not actually all that expensive work to do the stuff in the admin area. Where we get into the costs on these things, is systems are gonna be an expense that I don't know that I could even right now give you a magnitude of what that could be.
Yeah, I can imagine what the HVAC systems would cost in that building, but basically the envelope is fairly secure other than the.
Yeah. And actually, I believe we're looking at the area that I was surprised to see the type of window it was, is I think only in the 1982 portion, the center portion of the building. So some of that's in controlled environment to some degree. It's in the booking area and places like that. So I think we're limited on how many openings we're gonna have to have on that envelope at any given time. And obviously, we're gonna have to secure those areas. A little bit like when I said we needed a secure path for materials coming in for building, but we're also gonna need a secure path to get materials out if we demo. You just don't wanna have any little pieces of metal and stuff like that available to anybody laying around on the floor. So that would be another place that we'd secure it in some manner or fashion.
All right, you're recommending to us to have a construction manager, and do we need a vote on the timeline to choose a construction manager?
No, just the authorization to go ahead and pursue that. Then we would work together to fill out the proper documents and timing them.
Then come back to us for approval of who the manager is going to be.
Correct. We'll do the interviewing process and so
Can we get that done in 60 days?
the holidays possibly.
That's what I was thinking, 1st of January.
Probably looking at mid-January, I would imagine.
I didn't think about the holidays.
What's that?
I didn't think about the holidays squeezed in there.
Well, there's big ones, as far as time out of the office.
Yep.
So, how does the commission wish to proceed? Do a construction manager, and there's different phraseology of what we want to hire. Is it at risk? Is it just standard construction manager under contract? What are you recommending?
There's CM agency and CM at risk. CM at risk allows them to do some self-performed work. CM agency, they just act as a group that helps you procure subcontractors and have them handle all the construction. I've not worked with a whole lot of folks right here in this area if they do any self-performed work. I believe we are doing CM agency in Grant County is how they hired the CM down there. But in some ways, having them able to bid some of those packages themselves guarantees you that you're going to get coverage on some of your work packages if they've got crew. I'm from Kansas City, so I'm not as familiar with all the CMs that are out in this area, but I think that's something we need to look into, is whether we've got people that have work crews that can be part of that construction process as well. I mean, they might provide the demolition.
Maybe we should offer, between you and Robert, come up with a choice, makes no difference along.
Okay?
Well, I've worked with both.
Yeah, and I've worked with both, but,
My preference is a CMR.
okay, CM at risk.
I mean, it just, a lot more predictable. No, less surprises.
All right, need a motion to approve the administrator and our architect to send RFQs out and to conduct interviews, make a recommendation to us prior to the 17th of January, our second meeting in January, so that we can choose a construction manager at risk.
Mr. Chairman, so move.
Second. Moved and seconded to task the administrator and our architect with choosing a construction manager at risk, making recommendations to us by January 17th. And I'd like to have those by the 10th, if we could, so that those go out in the packet on the 17th. We will have a new chairman next year, so, but that's what we've been doing for the last year as far as getting information to commissioners timely. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next on our business agenda is the Health EMS Architect selection, and we're gonna take a 9-minute break and reconvene at 20 till 10. So we'll be right with you at 20 till. from the fire department on the fire department and EMS facility under the sales tax. And we also, for the commission's benefit, will have a sales tax oversight meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock, and I'll report back to the commission next meeting. But in the meantime, we have a representative from the fire department here to give us an update on that. Please inform the public who you are and tell us about where we're at.
Yes, sir. My name is Kenny Smith. I'm the training officer for Garden City Fire Department. So it's just more or less informational. So a couple weeks ago, we had a meeting with Crossland, which is the CMR that we have for our Station 3. And they have talked about how everything is going the way it should, and November 1st is actually when the bids opened up for the facility. And for that, they suggested, just by their predictions, that we were about 150,000 within that window of positive, negative, from what they gave for the projected cost of the project. So on November 21st, around noon, we're going to have the opening of all of the bids, and then we'll kind of go from there. Right now, it's all out to bid. They have had a lot of interests from construction companies and all that stuff as far as putting bids in. So they know that the interest is there, and they are very pleased with how many people they've had contacting them. So.
All right, any questions from the commissioners with regard to the update on Fire Station 3 and the EMS portion of it? Nope. All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we'll hear from Trudy and the Health EMS facility. Hi, Skylar.
Hello.
Please announce and introduce yourselves for the public.
Good morning, I'm Shruti Chabra, Director of the Finney County Health Department.
And I'm Skylar Storage, Director of EMS.
What do you have for us today, folks?
So we had interviewed three groups, architectural groups for this project. You can see there on the background, we had several items we evaluated them on with experience with public and health sector work, knowledge of current best practices in architecture and construction management, underlying values, principles, and efficiency of aesthetics, vision for the future, and resources available to vote our project, and their design process. All three were very capable, but we felt that our best option that we felt most comfortable with was the Goldberg Group. We spoke with their through their references that they gave, and very, very glowing references, specifically with Kevin Roast, which is, hopefully I said his last name correctly. He is very highly spoken of. And he will be the senior project manager for this project if they
Skylar, give me the name of the group again.
Goldberg Group.
Goldberg.
Goldberg. Okay.
Questions from commissioners? Then two of you, what report can you give the commission?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Not necessarily questions from me, Mr. Chairman, but yes, we did sit in on this process. We sat in on the previous process with regard to architects and so forth too, and Goldberg was one of those in that prior interview process as well. And then the architect and GMCN are local firms, and from the guidance, due to guidance from this board, we wanted to include a couple local firms as well. And I would, as one of the people in that group, would endorse the recommendation for the Goldberg Group.
Commissioner Dries?
Pretty much the same thing. Again, I would agree with Skylar that all three firms were capable, but I think the Goldberg Group kind of stood out for me as well.
I have a general question. Where are they out of?
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
And I would, just one thing, your comment just triggered this thought, Dwayne. capable both from a knowledge standpoint and from a time standpoint, because we also looked at what other projects do they have going on, and which ones are coming to completion, which ones are in the beginning stages, and Goldberg, I think, fits that as well as any of them, as far as knowledge and time.
All right, any other questions?
Question. When the different architect firms did they interview you guys all separately to come and visit your?
No, as a group.
Yeah, not for this process here. That is something all three of them said would be part of their process if they were
Okay.
selected.
Okay. Well, did you give them, I don't know, roughly what you needed or wanted, or is that just further down the road?
I think they have a general idea of what we're looking for. We didn't get too much into specifics, and one of the reasons, and what I mean by that is, yes, they know our general desire, but I also want to be available to listen to what they have to say so that they can give us advice on maybe things that we don't know that we need. That through their experience, through their projects, they're like, okay, this is the best way to do it, whereas it could be something that maybe we're not aware of from our perspective.
I know with the advents of IT and things, that distance is not a big deal anymore, but I still value working face-to-face with people. Is that going to be a problem, you think, or not?
I don't anticipate it being a problem. I think we've all got and I've definitely done I've had a lot of experience here working with the current project with Crossland, and we do a lot of Zoom meetings, and those seem to be just fine. I think we get everything that we need. The communication can be done.
Okay.
And the references confirmed that they are able to make time and be available as needed. So they do go back and forth or be available online. I think their availability was one thing that the references really recommended them on.
Commissioner Jones?
Just a quick question. Are the architectural firm that you're recommending, are they good to go on construction management at risk? So, I mean, that's kind of the new modern way to build, and one I prefer. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I would move that we authorize staff to negotiate a contract with the Goldberg Group Architects for this EMS health building.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize staff to negotiate a contract with the Goldberg Group Architects out of Kansas City. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on our business agenda is from the county attorney. She needs no introduction, but please introduce yourself for the voting public.
I'm Susan Richmeyer, county attorney. It's like, oh, I'm not quite that short. So I'm here for basically the same reason that the health department was here, along with Skylar. We met, I think the same committee met with the same group of architects about the project for the county attorney's office, although we came to a different conclusion, and that would be that GMCN would be the architect we would request approval for the county attorney's project. They are local. That is the firm that originally built the county attorney's building. And I think based on the conversations that we had, they're well aware of our expectations, and the time piece would appear to work as well.
Questions for the county attorney?
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, but just a clerical thing that if for anybody reading the memo, and I am favoring GMCN also, but it is option 2 or alternative 2 on the memo, not alternative 1.
Okay. Commissioner Drees, you served on that committee?
I did, and I agree with the recommendation of Susan, our county attorney, and I will move to authorize iterative negotiations with the GMCN Architects.
And I would second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve staff to negotiate with GMCN Architects. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, you all.
Next on our business agenda is the sewer improvement bid, and we'll hear from Jenny Newberry and Mackenzie Phillips. Once again, please introduce yourself for the viewing public and tell us about how we're going to make this bid work.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Mackenzie Phillips, the Development and Administrative Coordinator.
Jenny Newberry, Assistant County Administrator and Finance Director.
Okay, so before you today, the board is asked to consider and approve awarding the bid to Middle Creek Corporation for the renovation and modernization project for the sewer districts. And that also includes the lift station over at the Northwest Industrial District. So on October 10th, we did have a bid opening for this renovation and modernization project. We received one bid from Middle Creek Corporation. They're from Peabody, Kansas. And the bid amount was for $4,016,957.20. So following the review of the bids with SMH Engineering, who was the consultant on this project, we were able to eliminate about $58,200 of those project costs without compromising the final project improvements. So with this adjustment, the construction bid has been lowered to $3,958,757.20. To give you a little bit of background on this, as you're well aware, we in late 2002, early 2023, we went out for bids for just the Northwest Industrial Lift Station. We were having a lot of issues with that pump station at the time, and we didn't receive any bids. So that was when we included that in with all the other sewer districts to hopefully get somebody to bid on the project. So because of that, the county was forced to utilize part of the $3.5 million that was set aside from the ARPA funds for this bigger project. And the reason is because we had to keep the system running and make emergency repairs and pay for materials that will be used in the replacement of that lift station. So the alternatives before you today are to either one, accept the bid from Middle Creek, or to reject the bid and go out for bids later. So our recommendation is to accept the bid from Middle Creek for the $3,958,757.20. But in order to specifically identify the resources needed to pay for the project, staff does request that the board formally approve the following. So first is that they appropriate $550,000 of the remaining $603,300.01 unappropriated ARPA funds for the sewer project. Then number two, reappropriate the $50,000 to be used to pay for the LEC assessment to be used for the sewer project, and authorize payment for the LEC assessment to come from the general fund. Then number three, reappropriate $200,000 of the $1.5 million to be transferred to the general fund in 2023 to be appropriated for the sewer project. And then number four, approve the $200,000 to be used from the sewer district's cash for the purpose of making these improvements. So all of the funding will be from ARPA for $3,853,000, and then the additional will come from the $200,000 from the sewer district funds.
Questions from the commission? Sir.
I have a question about the 200,000. This bid is actually for Sewer District 4, is it not?
This includes.
These is all four sewer districts. It's for all four? Okay, then that answers the question. I was wondering if it was a new sewer district, how we took money from another sewer district, but Not an issue, thank you.
Other questions for our presenters?
Mr. Chairman, just to Robert and Jenny, with regard to resolutions or transferring funds, or what mechanics do we go through to do this step 1 through 4 that's been outlined here for the transfer of funds and movement of funds without budget violations, without financial violations?
We need you all to make the motions on those first three, and we will bring Sewer District 1 in to do an amended budget on that one, so that we can allow us to take that $200,000 out of the reserve funds in that fund, in that particular fund for that.
But today, it would be 3 separate motions for priorities 1, 2, and 3.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
The pump station and some of that stuff, I think we're committed to. There's no backing out of it. We've made an agreement. We've got developments underway. They're going to rely on that, and I see no alternative other than to prove it.
Commissioner Drees.
Did any of our local major contracts, were they given an opportunity to bid, or did they know about it, or I guess?
Yes, they did know about it, as far as I'm aware, and they were given the opportunity to provide a bid, but this was the only bid that we received.
This is required to be published for 30 days. So, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we'll take them in order first. Let's accept the bid of 3.958757.2 from Middle Creek, and then we'll move down to the methodology of doing the accounting work, so to speak. Make sure our auditor is happy.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we do accept the bid from Middle Creek for the repair and modernization of the sewer systems.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the bid of Middle Creek for 3.958757.20 from Middle Creek. Is there any other discussion?
Just a quick question. Did they say timeline as far as starting to do the work or anything if the bid's accepted?
They will be able to begin this year yet. If you recall, we purchased a lot of the materials for that fourth pump station up there, so they can get started on that one immediately.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to do these in order, both for budgeting and cash budget laws. So one motion at a time, please.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we appropriate $500,000 from the remaining $603,301 unappropriated ARPA funds for the sewer project.
Second.
That would be $550,000.
Oh, excuse me, I just misspoke, yes. I see the 550, but I just misspoke. Thank you.
Right. Is that your second, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
All right. Comments, Mr. Drees?
I was just going to point out.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right. Any further discussion on item 1 of our budget and cash law requirements? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2.
I move that we reappropriate $50,000 to be used to pay for the LAC assessment and used for the sewer project as authorized payment for the LAC assessment to come from the general fund.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. I do have a question before we move on, a vote on that. Is this $50,000 out of our general fund monies?
Correct. It'll be through buildings and grounds.
Was there any budget for this, for set aside or reserve, or is this just a general fund allocation?
This will be a general fund allocation.
You recommend that we do this?
Absolutely.
There we go. Any further discussion on the pending motion, item 2? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we reappropriate 200,000 of the 1,500,000 transferred from the general fund in 2023 and appropriate that for the sewer project.
Second.
It's been moved to reappropriate 200,000 of the 1.5 million to be transferred to the general fund in 2023 to be appropriated for the sewer project. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.
That one we will bring, we'll bring an amended budget to you next, well, it will probably be December the 4th because we'll have to publish on that, so.
All right, we'll wait till we get it published. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last thing on the agenda is bituminous surfing bid and Kenny Jones Road and Bridge, Larry Brungart, engineering technician, and the administrator.
Larry got a little taller since we last.
I'm Kenneth Jones, the Road and Bridge Operations Coordinator. Larry had to go set up voting booth polls today, so he won't be here. The Board of County Commissioners is asked to consider and approve awarding the bid to APAC Kansas Inc. for the 2024 bituminous surfacing project. The Public Works Department advertised the 2024 surfacing project on September 23rd and 30th of 2023. The scope of this project is to do a 2-inch overlay over West Fork Road and a 2-inch mill and overlay on Old 83 and Annie Shear Road, which is approximately 11.6 miles. Bids were opened at 10 a.m. on October 23rd, 2023 at the Public Works office. We received one bid from APAC Kansas Inc. for $3,209,570.69. We're asking that the board approve this. You may accept the bid from APAC for $3,209,570.69 or not accept the bid from APAC. We recommend that you approve the bid from APAC.
Any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd offer your motion
Proceed.
to approve alternative 1 to employ APAC for the resurfacing at a cost of $3,209,570.69.
And I would second that as to include payment is going to come from the Special Highway Fund, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and also, I believe, if you would, authorize me to sign the contract.
So,
Is that part of your motion?
Yeah, we'll include that.
Second, sir?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the contract and bid from APAC Kansas Inc. for $3,209,570.69 to have the funds paid out of the Special Highway Fund and to authorize the chairman to sign the contract. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, we have upcoming meetings and events. Is there any additions or deletions from the calendar?
No, sir, but I do want to point out that I included the KAC agenda in your packet, and that'll be taking place the first week in December, so there's a detailed information on that agenda. And then I would also point out that today is the last day for early voting. That will end at noon today. Be sure and stop by on your way out if you haven't voted already. And tomorrow, people can vote at their polling locations from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
All right, thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for the clerk, reference voting? And also our KAC conference is also part of our packet, and it follows the upcoming calendar and events.
We will canvass the ballots when?
Next meeting, I believe.
Yes, November 20th at 8:30 a.m. we'll begin the canvass.
Okay, thank you.
At 8 a.m.?
8:30
Okay.
a.m.
Moving on to development update, Mackenzie.
Good morning again, Chairman and Commissioners. Mackenzie Phillips, Development and Administrative Coordinator. So I have a few updates for you today. When Jim was up here, like he had said, we are working on an alternative to that letter of credit. So we will be working on the next couple of weeks, working on some other alternatives right now. So for Western Kansas Corridor, I have an update on that as well. We had the walkthrough on October 26th. It was pretty successful, and we the infrastructure for the most part looks very good. There was just a few small changes that do need to be made before we can bring acceptance to the board. Those include some moving some street signs and then stop signs, and possibly increasing the size of one of the stop signs. And then the main improvement that still needs to be made is building up the shoulders of the roads. There is a significant drop, and it's probably due to a lot of the moisture that we've gotten this year, all of the rain washing out the dirt on the side of the roads. So they are going to go through and do a 1 foot earthen shoulder like what was required and approved in the plans. And then it was identified that there is quite a bit of, right now there's small cracks, but there's cracking along the sides of the asphalt. And right now, most of those cracks are about 1/8 of an inch wide or smaller, so they're still very small. We're going to be monitoring that during the warranty period. We have suggested to the contractor that they do maybe pull some core samples now, just to see if that cracking is just in the top layers or if it goes all the way to the bottom, and if there's possible issues with the base.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I have some more.
Right.
I do want to address too that we are working on a more streamlined development process, working on outlining that so when a developer does come with questions, we can provide them with that process and help them through it, and make it so that these developments aren't taking as long as they have been. So, and then I have one more update. So I do have an update for the storage containers, the amendment to that. As you remember, on April 17th, an amendment resolution was brought before you to allow for any lots less than 2 acres to have the storage containers as accessory uses as on a temporary basis, and then from 2 to 40 acres to allow them within all commercial districts, industrial districts, or the 2 to 40 acres is just for the residential lots. It also allows for all commercial and industrial districts. They would have to get a CUP at that point. That amendment was denied. And then before you on June 19th, the owner of the property that did request the amendment came and asked for a waiver, which she was granted a temporary 6-month waiver until staff had come up with a new amendment to bring before the Planning Commission and the board. So we were reached out to by Neighborhood and Development Services Department on, since the last meeting, and they have requested that they receive additional guidance on this amendment. They felt it was a little unclear on what the guidance was, but they do want to bring before you 3 different alternatives, which are very similar to what was brought to you before, but they did specifically outline in each alternative that it would exempt the building code requirements in the zoning regulations. That would be the requirement for the it to be anchored and then also be on a concrete pad. And then that there would be no more than 1 metal container on the property. And the size would not exceed 8 foot by 20 foot by 9 foot tall, and they would not be able to be stacked. So all 3 alternatives outline those specifically. The difference between the 3 is 1 allows them within residential districts 2 to 40 acres, all commercial and industrial districts. Alternative 2 allows for it As currently, the 5 to 40 acres, so nothing less than 5 acres in residential, and still allows for commercial and industrial. And then alternative 3 does also, as same as alternative 1, it has the 2 to 40 acres. But this one, it states specifically that it would be allowed only outside the development envelope that's identified in the comprehensive plan.
Those suggested changes were not given to us in our packet, correct?
Correct.
So we'll take that up on the 20th, can we?
Okay. They have requested a work session, but I think that, I think we've discussed that since this was brought before a actual board meeting, that they need to be that a regular scheduled, if that is what the board so desires.
Do you think we need a work session, or can we go ahead and give them?
You gave them direction in an open session, and they're requesting additional direction. You need to do it in an open session.
All right, we'll take it up on the 20th.
Okay, I will let them know. Yes, I will let them know. So, okay, that's the rest of my update. So do you have any questions for me?
Sure, I'm gonna start right.
Okay.
Mackenzie, all those rules and regulations that Mr. Randall spoke about this morning, were those part of when we set up the zoning, were they just part of a package that required it? I don't ever remember doing anything individually or specific setting up those type of rules. Is that just a?
It's just, I think he was referring to our zoning and subdivision regulations that have been in place for 20, 30 years. So,
We'd talked about updating the code. I didn't know if the rules were in part of the update or.
yeah, those are the rules that are within the zoning and subdivision regulations, and those are what we are looking at updating this next year.
Well, it's all news to me, you know, just what he was talking about this morning. So.
And part of it is state statute too, since it was going through the RHID process, so we did have to follow the rules from the state statute.
Well, those are all RHID, that's USDA requirements, aren't they?
No.
Aren't they?
No, it's state statute.
State statute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's about as good.
All right. Commissioner Dries.
Mine was following up with what Commissioner Jones was talking about. Do we need some kind of work? I mean, this is a common complaint. I've heard this many, many times. Do we have a problem? Do we need to address this, or is this strictly an informational problem that the developers and the local citizens need to know?
I think it might be a little bit of a combination of both. We do have very outdated regulations, and so that's what we're going to be working on this next year, to update those. And then we're also working on outlining that whole process that we currently have in place, so it does provide that information to the developers up front, so that they're not caught off guard later on through the process.
I'll give you another example. You know, through the tornado damage out in my region, in my district, I've got homeowners that are being blocked from repairing their homes because of these regulations. They can't even put windows back in their houses, basically.
Oh, wow.
So I think we got a problem here.
Any other comments?
Yes,
Over your left. Yes, sir.
I'm going to verbalize this a bit differently. If you were authorized to take a big eraser and just erase all of these regulations that we have and let's start over, is there an appropriate way to paint a sign that says, let's get it built? I agree with fellow commissioners here. It's what we hear about the complaints from the public over regulations. Not only are they impediment, but they take time, because something has to be published and they have to wait 14 days or 30 days or whatever. Is there a fix? And if so, how do we go about it?
So some of the publication deadlines, those aren't things that we could necessarily fix because that is set in state statute. So some of those publication dates are going to probably stay the same. Now, the way that we go through the process, that's what we're going to look at to see if there's anything that we can adjust to make it easier to go through the process and make it more timely as well.
Mr. Randall was referencing some other counties. I think we're the only county in southwest Kansas that has countywide zoning. And I think right there is a big big hiccup in our public trying to deal with the process in order to build something. Is that not the case?
There's other places that are zoned, but they're doing their processes differently.
Yeah.
And his, in his conversation with me, it was, in comparing a couple of counties, it's which one is more friendly to the developers, but yet keeping safety and some of the other issues in mind, so that we're not chasing off businesses or developers for housing to these other counties. So it was a concern about, and I think he used the words flexibility and partnering and so forth, and that's in essence what he was trying to get across in his message today, according to my previous conversation with him.
Well, I agree with him. There's got to be some way to fix it, so, thank you.
All right. Anything else for Mackenzie? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fire incident reports, we have the summary. Do you have any highlights you'd wish to add? Please introduce yourself and.
Hello again, Kenny Kenny Smith with the Garden City Fire Department. Nothing to highlight, just more of an update, just to kind of keep you guys aware. In the month of September, there was a total of 27 calls that we responded to outside of the city limits. As far as particulars, I don't have particulars just because I only do Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on my job. So a lot of the questions that has come up is like, what kind of calls are they? So naturally, fire calls are something that is self-explanatory. Rescue calls, whether it's injury or non-injury, most likely some sort of accident, whether it's going to be automobile or otherwise. Hazardous conditions, no fire, that would be like maybe a gas leak or some sort of spill. A service call is kind of that, and a good intent call is kind of a synonymous, just kind of how it's worded on our system as far as our reporting system. It could be a fire alarm. It could be a fire alarm that then they came back and said that the reporting party called back and it's no longer a fire alarm, it was just an accidental, something like that. And then that also goes into either a false alarm or a false call. Most likely on those, we didn't even show up on scene to do anything because we were disregarded early. But other than that, I'll take any questions.
I have an observation. I want to encourage everyone in the county to be painfully aware that with all the wonderful rain that we have a lot of ammunition, let's say, or
yes,
tall weeds that will really go fast. We have to pay attention.
And historically, going into October, November, and December, we get those nasty north winds that can cause a lot of havoc. So.
It's really got a lot of ammunition. I know the forestry has a term for that we have a lot of
fuel
for fire, and it doesn't take much of a western Kansas wind to
no, it doesn't.
put it into motion, and that's one of the things that we're looking forward to, you guys getting your grant on continuing to look for ways to improve fire safety in the county. But ask the citizens to be mindful that we'll approach burn issues very carefully with this much fuel on the grounds. It's something that everybody needs to be careful about, and at the same time, we appreciate you being responsive to those calls.
No problem. And then also on that last page, can you go down? It does break it out. One more? Yep. It does break it out to your townships so that you know specifically what township that we did respond to give you an idea as well. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just a question, when he's talking about the fuel, and I know what he's talking about, because we've got a lot of it around Towns Riverview that we're very concerned about and
Yes.
from several aspects, but does the fire department do any controlled burns, if you will, for areas that they suspect are the worst possibilities for that?
As of right now, no controlled burns, but if you remember last month, I came to you about that CWPP grant, and that kind of encompasses that. So that is a control measure to find hazardous spots that we can go in and then mitigate that. Yes. So that is in the process of looking into it. Actively, we don't go out and do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Kenny.
Have a good day.
All right, next up on the report is from the county counselor.
First, I'd like to take the opportunity to remind you all that the docket for the Kansas Supreme Court will take place on Tuesday, November 14th at Dodge City High School at 2201 West Ross Boulevard in Dodge City. At 6:30 p.m., first up on there is American Warrior et al. Versus Board of County Commissioners of Finney County, Kansas. So if any of you are interested in attending that, if you can't attend, it also is going to be live streamed on the Supreme Court YouTube channel. So you can watch those arguments that way as well if you're not able to make it over to Dodge. Update on the tax sale at this particular juncture. I'm waiting for some additional information from the county treasurer, but the holdup really on that end comes from district court and statewide problems at this point in time with their e-flex system. So it's the e-filing system, which is down because of a breach in security. So it's slowing down access to lots of things at this point in time. So even as far as getting good title for anything, because you're not able to search those records in district court because they're all down. So there is just a bit of a holdup with that, hopefully, and we really don't have an update as to when that's going to be back up yet. We're hopeful that it will come back sooner rather than later, but it's an IT issue as much as anything. So it's really an interesting situation.
To say the least, to supplement your report, Friday, the Supreme Court announced that they were going to finally allow public access to public records, but only in the Kansas Judicial Center on the south side of 10th Street, which is 317 miles from here. So that'll be our first public access to those records. And how that's going to work and how it's going to lay out, I don't have in my mind how we're going to be able to do that, but it does interfere with the ability to gather sufficient information in order to commence a tax sale. Just for the other commissioners' benefit, the tax sale can't commence until the petitioner, us, has the name and addresses of the people involved, the amount of judgments or other outstanding liens, so that it can all be done at the same time, and you can't do that when you can't get access to the records to know what the other outstanding liens and judgments are. So there's an indefinite period of time where we're on hold, and I'm yet personally as a lawyer to figure out how that's public access in one place in Topeka. So not trying to be critical of my court or our courts here in Kansas, but at the same time, that's not public access. That's access in one place. So having said that, I think I'll let it go at that. Anything else?
My only other one is probably a shameless plug. Just anybody looking for some culture this weekend, Garden City High School is putting on, their drama department is putting on their production of The Addams Family. You can go Friday or Saturday at 7 p.m. or on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. And I may know one of the actors.
I'm sure you do.
Proceeding was a paid political announcement.
All right, Mr. Administrator, do you have a report for us?
Just briefly, we've got, we had scheduled on the 20th of this month a work session to go over the personnel policy. We've not received that back. We're going to have to cancel that work session and push it back. My suggestion is that we look for something after the first of the year. So we'll get with the commission, maybe next commission meeting to pinpoint a proper date for that work session. Just a reminder, next Monday evening, is the Legislative Appreciation Dinner over there in Dodge City. Who all is going? I know Larry was there last year.
I went last year.
Well, I had thought about going, but it also is the same time the West Plains Extension District Board meets, and so I'm not sure which should have priority. If you think I should be there instead of the Extension District Board meeting, I'm more than willing to go.
Well, I'll plan on going again this year, so didn't know if anybody else was interested.
I'm interested, but I didn't know which should have higher priority probably.
You know, just as a reminder, this is the last day to RSVP so that we can get that.
Yeah, put me down, and then I'll
Okay.
communicate with the
Will do.
Extension Board.
Very good, thank you.
All right.
Anything else, sir?
No, we're, as you realize, we're in November, so that means for the most part, we're starting to look at closing down the financials for the year and positioning it, getting all these projects lined up for the following year. By the way, that asphalt project will go off next year. That'll be an asphalt project for next year. So, okay.
Any other questions for the administrator? Okay. Anything else, sir? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's it.
All right. Commissioner reports, we'll go right to left. Commissioner Jones?
The only thing I've got is upcoming meetings, the KDOT meeting in Gray County. Somebody probably needs to attend that on Highway 400 update. And then also this problem, I'm going to the legislative meeting at Southwind. The Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate's gonna be there, so that's what I'm gonna attend. Other than that, it's been harvest season, been busy.
Commissioner Pishning?
Yes, I too would ask that somebody from staff be at the meeting in Cimarron for KDOT because it conflicts with that legislative meeting that Larry referenced that I'm scheduled to go to as well. I did just, past meetings, did attend Economic Development and Planning Commission and so forth as my liaison responsibilities have been given. The other thing, though, that I wanted to bring to your attention is I'm sorry, I forgot this notice this morning if it's on there, but the showcase for November 9th. But what I wanted to highlight with this one is with regard to business and technology, and it's in Dodge City at the Civic Center, and I do plan to go over for at least part of the day. And they'll have businesses such as American Implement and Davis Electric, Empirical, and so forth, without reading all of them, and the 3 community colleges participating in this particular event. And they start at 9 and close about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So another one of their showcases, and again, the topic is business and technology this time.
All right, thank you. Mine is that I attended the Compass Board meeting. We continue to have great growth in the area of mental health and area mental health services. Beginning December 4th, we will now have next day service at Compass, which is area mental health, but its actual name is Compass. And the previous years was one-day appointment, next-day service. With their new CBHCC designation, they're going to be able to have same-day service. So anybody with mental health issues or crisis will get help the same day that they walk in the doors at Compass during regular business hours. Secondly, Compass is going to be available now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for our mental health crisis number. I believe that's 988. And really proud of the directors of Compass and their staff in reaching the community health designation. This is going to provide additional mental health services for our community and also for law enforcement. Many of our calls, although the sheriff isn't here, involve mental health issues, and of which having a counselor available 24/7 for intervention is critically important to our community. I did get one on Commissioner Pishney. I'm going to go to the community college tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. for a Fort Hays State University presentation on their nursing program here in Southwest Kansas. And as we all know, nursing shortages are something that we need to continue to work on. We have scheduled planning next week, and when is the Speaker and the President of the Senate going to be here?
November 16th.
16th. Yeah.
6 o'clock, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that is correct.
And I will be meeting with the President of the Senate at 5 p.m. that day. I don't know whether Speaker Hawkins is going to be there, but I can tell you his stock went up in my world when he announced that he was in favor of rescinding the 21.5 mills and finding additional funding for schools rather than on the backs of our property owners. That's a big change for all of us in leadership on 10th Street, and we'll be very interested to see how that plays out in the coming year or two as they deal with school funding. Also, the Attorney General has asked the court, the Kansas Supreme Court, to discontinue its overview under the school finance cases. We'll wait and see what the court does with that, but then should the court choose to do so, which I believe it will and should, there's the comment of the day, but that gets that ball back squarely in the legislature's hands to find an adequate financing formula for our school system. Upcoming meetings, we will not have a Compass board meeting until January, so I won't have an update for you next month. Believe it or not, the holidays fit on the last Thursday of and Thanksgiving, of course, and Christmas, so my next board meeting with Compass will be in late January, should next year's chairman choose to appoint me to that position. Commissioner Drees.
Past meetings were all canceled. The Great Plains Development Annual, lack of reservations, so they canceled that meeting. It'll be postponed till next spring sometime. And then none of my harvest interrupted my last 2 weeks worth of meetings, but I do have upcoming meetings next 2 weeks. That's it.
Very good. Commissioner Jones.
I have a lot of meetings, so get your timer going there, would you?
Okay, I will do that.
Sound the alarm at 5 minutes, though.
Yeah.
You're on the clock. Go.
I'll be through in less than 5 minutes. We had a local emergency planning committee meeting, and McKinsey got it all put together finally we'd missed a month or two. Routine reports and an announcement of an election of new officers at the next meeting. I had a library board meeting, and we've acted on part of that. I will report that there will be no November board meeting at the library. That instead it will be a combined 2-month meeting on December 4 at 5 p.m. I attended part, I couldn't do much walking, but the Western Kansas corridor walk around, and my ability to walk doesn't serve me well, but that was interesting. I can see some things that we can do to make our operation run a little smoother, and at the appropriate time, I'll offer some input there. We also had, Lana had a Finney County Economic Development 5th Monday meeting at noon last Monday, and attended, and that was interesting. She had a report on the fact that there's no Kansas law that regulates massage therapy, and an invitation to do jurisdictions, county or the city want to take that up, and I don't know whether we do or not, probably not, but it was interesting. Also attended a meeting on wind farms, Invenergy, is another one of the companies in the neighborhood looking things over, and they have on the drawing board, if you will, significant wind farm project in the northwest part of our county. Also a solar panel farm that's mainly in Gray County, but it does get over in the corner of Finney County. That was a very interesting meeting to attend, so I think we need to invite some of those wind farm folks to come back and put on a little presentation for the county commission. My final thing, Mr. Chairman, is back in May at least, we approached well, before that, we acted as a board on a resolution raising our Board of Zoning Appeals from a 3-person membership to 5. And we appointed members to fill that 5 out. Then Leonard Hitz, who was a member, moved to town and by state law is prohibited from serving. So on May the 1st or something like, yeah, May 1, Jenny sent out an email showing terms. We have Steve Michael, John Fort, Ronald Liker, and Vicki Gurman serving, but a vacant spot, a 4-year term that will expire 12/31 of 26. I had a conversation with Bob Kreitzer back then, and he said he'd be willing to serve if the county would like to appoint him. And we were asked, when I brought that up at a meeting, let's advertise. And I believe the advertisement's gone fruitless. I don't know, haven't heard of anybody lining up to be appointed. And so I'd like to have that, if we could, placed on our next agenda. And let's either fill a vacancy or go back to a board of 3 or whatever, but let's take some kind of action so we don't have a vacancy for months. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Administrator, can we get the vacancies on the Board of Appeals on their agenda next time?
Yes, we can, yes.
Thought we could. I was there for planning this a week ago, and I didn't get that on the agenda.
Well, yeah.
We'll get it done this time. Anything else? Motion to adjourn, please.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? Is there a second to adjourn?
Oh, second.
Moved and second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Always say, not me.
You guys just want